Welcome to Public Speaking Secrets, where we teach you how to speak better to live better. I'm Christopher Kai. Today's episode, we're going to profile Tai Lopez. Many of you might know him as that guy who shot that Here in My Garage video. It's a brilliant video. Love or hate the guy. He is really, really, really good at speaking. For those of you who stay at the end of this video, I'm going to share 3 fascinating, mind-blowing things about Tai Lopez that I know about him because I have known him for many years. Before he blew up, I've spoken at many of his events. So stay after this, and I'll share with you some of the things about Tai Lopez that will blow your mind. So let's just first talk about his speaking style and how brilliant this Here in My Garage video is.
Here in my garage, just bought this new Lamborghini here. Fun to drive up here in the Hollywood Hills. But you know what I like a lot more than materialistic things? Knowledge. In fact, I'm a lot more proud of these 7 new bookshelves that I had to get installed to hold 2,000 new books that I bought. It's like the billionaire Warren Buffett says, the more you learn, the more you earn. Now, maybe you've seen my TEDx talk where I talk about how I read a book a day. You know, I read a book a day not to show off. It's again about the knowledge. In fact, the real reason I keep this Lamborghini here is that it's a reminder that dreams are still possible, because it wasn't that long ago that I was in a little town across the country sleeping on a couch in a mobile home with only $47 in my bank account. I didn't have a college degree. I had no opportunities. But you know what? Something happened that changed my life. I bumped into a mentor and another mentor.
So Tai is very, very, very brilliant relative to marketing. And I'm going to break down exactly what he's doing well. Very first scene that you see of Tai Lopez, you might not even realize it. It's very subliminal. There's a guy named Robert Cialdini. He wrote a book called Influence, but he recently wrote a book called Persuasion. And it talks about a study where there's a guy that goes to an open mall or a public place, and he approaches some random girl, asks her for her number, asks her to go out for a date. Most of the girls say no, but if the same scene where a random male walks up to a stranger, if there's an actual florist shop, a flower shop behind him, and ultimately if he walks up to this girl and this girl's in front of a flower shop, that stranger, that male stranger, has a higher probability of getting the girl's number. Now, how does that matter to this video? Just by looking at this video in the background, you see a Lamborghini. You might not know Tai Lopez, but if you see a Lamborghini, you assume, wow, this guy must be wealthy because he has a Lamborghini. Also, based on research by 3M, images are absorbed 60,000 times faster. That's why it's a black Lamborghini car. And lastly, there's a term in the psychology world called success by association. So when he talks about this success, or he doesn't have to even talk about it yet, you just see a Lamborghini. So success by association. And he talks about, oh, it's fun to drive in the Hollywood Hills. Hollywood Hills is one of the most prominent and richest areas in all of Los Angeles. And he's driving his Lamborghini. So it's just by association. You don't know the house he lives in. It's actually a nice house. There's a pool there. But the whole point is, in just the first scene, without him uttering many words beyond that first sentence, you already know this guy appears successful. And then he talks about how, what's more important is that he has these 7 bookshelves of 2,000 new books. He's very specific, and that's what it's about. And he stresses things like knowledge. He has a knowledge society. His whole thing is about mentorship. But within the first minute, you already know so much about Tai. And I'm going to look at my notes here where he talks about Here in My Garage, sets the tone, Lamborghini pulls them in, hooks them in. He openly shares this. He knows that people won't care about reading unless he shows the hot girl, the mansion, the cars. So he understands getting attention. And then he says, to pivot, you know what I like more? Knowledge. Again, he stresses it. He builds it up. You know, like more? I don't know if you don't know the guy a few years back, but it's knowledge. And then he goes in deep. And he also references success by association to build credibility. He talks about billionaire Warren Buffett says, the more you learn, the more you earn. So again, you may not know Tai Lopez, but most of us know Warren Buffett. Even if you don't know Warren Buffett, you know he's a billionaire. And then he even uses internal rhyme. Internal rhyme is learn, earn. The more you learn, the more you earn. So that's called the internal rhyme. And then he also builds more credibility where it says, you might have seen me in my TEDx talk. And again, TEDx talk and TED Talks, they're a global brand that he reads a book a day. So even in the first 30 seconds, you know that he appears to be credible. He drives a Lamborghini in the Hollywood Hills. He references Warren Buffett. He references the TEDx talk, all in a span of 20, 30 seconds. And ultimately, he turns back the camera to the Lambo because, again, everyone has such a short attention span. And then he talks about the backstory. All of us have to have a backstory. All of us have to have a story that people engage with, whether you're Oprah Winfrey, whether you're Jeff Bezos. If you can imagine, Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon, he worked at McDonald's as a cook in high school. Can you imagine working at McDonald's and you're Jeff Bezos' manager, and one day this short line cook at McDonald's as a 16-year-old kid or a 17-year-old, he's a teenager at the time. He ends up becoming a billionaire, the richest guy in the world. Him and Elon Musk are going back and forth in terms of who's wealthiest. But the whole point is, have the story. If you don't have a humbling story, it's not very inspiring. In Ty's case, he talks about a story. He says, not too long ago, I was in this little town across the country, sleeping on a couch and in a mobile home, only $47 in my bank account, no college degree, no opportunity. So he's setting the tone that he's reaching out to all of you on YouTube. Hey, I didn't grow up with money. I didn't have a silver spoon. He also grew up with a single mother, and I think his father was in prison. But the point is, there's a reason why, whether you're Tai Lopez or Oprah Winfrey, you have to share that backstory. If you don't share the backstory, no one cares how successful you are, because ultimately it's really about, they need to see you in their story. You need to see them in their story. So he's brilliant in establishing within a minute what he's doing right now, driving the cool Lambo, having the flash image. The image is 60,000 times faster, then breaks down his credibility, billionaire, Warren Buffett, TEDx talk speaker. But he ends with, at the minute mark, he says, something happened that changed my life. Watch the tone, watch the placement. He's not saying that in the beginning. He could have said that in the beginning, perhaps, but you may not care why something happened to change his life because you don't know who he is. If you're seeing an ad, you see a guy with a Lambo, you're like, oh, I'm interested. So keep in mind that he, at the very 1 minute segment, he says, something happened that changed my life. And then he says, I bumped into a mentor. And then about a minute and 30 minutes in, that's where he's like, hey, call to action. I don't even know what the next 3 minutes are, but you know that within 1 minute, you know who this guy is, you know who he conveys, who he is. He looks like he's a smart guy. All those things. If you want to be convincing as a speaker, it's not just about the words you say, it's how you say the words, what you stress in the words, the pauses you say in the words, what your words convey to you relative to your expertise. In his case, it's about knowledge. In my case, if I talk about public speaking secrets, and I'm not unlocking these secrets for you, and I'm not a Fortune 100 global speaker doing this for 20 years, then it doesn't really lend much credibility for me. In Ty's case, you have to share stories too. So don't just say, oh yeah, I grew up with really poor. Give me specific details. In Ty's case, he gives 7 specific details. Just like I mentioned in a prior video with Amanda Gorman, who's the inaugural poet. She has alliteration. She did the something about the beating the belly of the beast or whatever it might have been. It's like that's 3 alliteration, but then she's talking about character and community and country. There was 7 alliterations. In Ty's case, he talks about his story. He doesn't say, oh, I grew up in a small town. Big deal. That's 1 layer. Across the country, 2 layers. Sleeping on a couch, 3 layers. Mobile home, 4 layers. Only $47 in my bank account, 5 layers. No college degree, 6 layers. No opportunity, 7 layers. So notice how it goes from this guy who didn't have a lot to 7 layers of storyline, which is what all great writers do. If you want to inspire people, you have to focus on depth, not shallowness, but depth. And it might be ironic that some people don't see Tai as a guy with depth and substance, but I'll tell you, he has a lot of substance. He's very knowledgeable. But again, you want to be a great public speaker? Learn from Tai. 70 million views from that video in 1 minute. It captures your attention. If you don't get your attention captured, you're done, especially on YouTube. So let me share 3 things that I know about Tai that many of you might not. Usually people that talk about how he's a scammer, how he's not a scammer, that's actually them clickbait so that you can watch their videos. I do it all the time. When I first learned about Tai, I didn't know about this guy, but there's 3 things I'm going to share. One thing is, if you really want to see Tai's full brilliance as a communicator, as a entrepreneur, Google or go to YouTube search and go to Tai Lopez, Tom Bilyeu, or Tai Lopez Impact Theory. Tom Bilyeu, if you haven't heard of that guy, Impact Theory, he's a phenomenal guy. He's also a friend of mine. Really, really good. But if you watch Tai Lopez's interview with Tom Bilyeu, you'll see how brilliant this man is. Whether you buy Tai's products or not, I don't care. I want you to learn. I want you to grow. I want you to speak and live better. So watch that video with Tai Lopez interview with Tom Bilyeu. First thing, you'll see how brilliant this guy is from his mind. He's really, really sharp. He studies stuff. He studies stuff. The second thing is, I met Tai about right before he blew up with this video. And I got a chance to speak at his mansion, speak at his various masterminds. He charges $25,000 for his mastermind. That's a few years back. I don't even know if he even charges that or even he has that now. I've spoken at his mentor conferences. The point is, when I went to his mansion in Beverly Hills, I was so blown away about how good he is at hiring staff. He has Maya, who's his cousin, who she's like his right-hand woman, but he has all these people at the time that were really, really good at what their job is. So he's really good at hiring staff. You can tell a lot about a person by the people they hire, and not just the people that are always behind the camera or taking photos or interviewing me at the time. It's even his chef or his security guard or his maid. All of them had a great vibe. So Tai is really, really, really good at building businesses to hire staff. So make sure you understand that. And the last thing I'll share with you is this, which you'll never know unless you know the guy. You'll never know most people that are public figures because they're not going to show their cards because they have a public image and a private image. But this is something that I admire about Tai. He's a generous guy. One time I was driving up to the Hollywood Hills. I was meeting up with a friend of mine named Chris Pan. He actually worked at Facebook. He actually taught. He graduated, I think, from Harvard, but he taught Mark Zuckerberg how to speak Chinese. So I'm going up to this party with Chris Pan, who's a great guy in his own right too. He has a party in the Hollywood Hills. And as I was driving up to the Hollywood Hills to this party, Tai Lopez's his mansion is along the way. So this is around 12 o'clock. It was a Friday or Saturday a few years back. And that video you see of Tai shooting that video of the garage, he would always have that garage open. So back in the day, before he blew up to where he is now, you could have literally drove up there. His garage door is open a lot. You see his brothers, Ben and his other brother, that they're just playing basketball. They're pretty casual at the time. They'd have parties there. But my point is, when I was driving up there, going to a party in the Hollywood Hills, I was driving by Tai's place and I wanted to invite Tai to this party. So his garage door was open. I just checked in on him and said, hey, what's up, Tai? What's going on? He's like, hey, what's up? He was there with two girls. They're drinking. And this is the moment that most people won't know about Tai Lopez. Most people don't know about celebrities, or most people don't know about public figures. You'll never really know who they really are, their character, unless you see them outside the scenes, behind the camera, where this is not publicized. But Tai was with two girls, really hot girls, in the Hollywood Hills, 12 o'clock at night, with drinks in his hand. And he didn't say, hey, get out of my face, Chris, get away. He said, hey, Chris, you want to join us? Think about that. I'm going up to the Hollywood Hills to a party. I'm inviting him. So it's all about doing your best to give acts of service. And he's like, oh, you want to join us? He didn't have this scarcity mentality. He didn't say, oh, get out of my face, Chris. I'm busy now. I meet a lot of people that are billionaires and millionaires and very successful people on the outside, but they have less character and generosity than Tai Lopez. You can love or hate Tai Lopez. I'm not here to say how amazing this man is as a person. I'm here to show you why he's a great speaker, but I'm also here to show you that he has a level of character and generosity that you don't see unless you know the guy. And at that moment, 12 o'clock at night, he's there with two girls. He could easily said, get out of my face, Chris. He welcomed me there. I said no, because I'm going to another party, but you know, it's very enticing. You have two hot girls there. But again, this is Hollywood Hills. A lot of hot girls, a lot of Lambos. But in Tai Lopez's case, keep that in mind. The last thing I'll say is this. In the YouTube world, in the online world, I'm new to this world. I've only been in this YouTube thing for a few years now. And I realized that it's so easy to say someone's a scammer and this and that. But even if you don't buy any of his products or her products, who cares? Don't buy their products. Just watch their content. You'll learn so much from these people. And you'll actually learn more from people you hate, dislike, than you will from people you like. It's easy to learn from people you like. It's easy to learn for someone like Oprah Winfrey because she's so nice and kind. It's even better for you from an intellect standpoint if you have a very strong feeling. Let's say you're a Republican. You can learn more from Bill Clinton than you can from maybe Donald Trump. And if you're a Bill Clinton fan, you can learn more from Donald Trump. The reason is, if you are literally seething and you're just angry when I mention Donald Trump or Bill Clinton, you already are losing your emotionality. You're already losing your senses. The reason why Warren Buffett, a Charlie Munger, a Bill Gates, a Jeff Bezos, a Ray Dalio, all these very, 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 very brilliant minds, they're brilliant because they remove their emotion and they think about logic. So regardless of how you feel of Tai Lopez, whether you think he's a scammer or not, I want to challenge you to really look at his video objectively, dissect the words, dissect the order of the words, dissect what he stresses on the words, dissect the images, and you'll know how brilliant he is as a speaker. And maybe you can apply those secrets to your life so you can speak better, to live better. Thank you so much for watching this episode. If you like these videos, like the video, subscribe to my channel, and thank you so much for being part of this community that we're building from ground up.